Whether you talk about the taking away of the indexation, whether you talk about the long-term capital gains, is there much that property owners, property sellers have to worry about?
There is a problem for people who have properties which are more than 10 years old, and then the indexation does make a difference, and then the calculations come slightly different. But if you look at the people who are investing into property today, and they have to make a choice between investing in the capital markets and putting money into real estate. Earlier, there was a problem because long-term capital gains tax for the purposes of property was 3 years and 20%, while in the case of capital markets, it was 1 year and 10%. So there was a huge difference between the two. 90% of the people who are looking at long-term capital gains tax, or 97% of the people looking at long-term capital gains tax, are people who are doing between 3 and 5 and 6 years that they invest into properties for the purposes of long-term capital gains tax and benefit. So I think 97% of the people will benefit. There will be 3 to 5% of the people who will not benefit, who are holding historically properties for a long period. And the third point, which is important, is to understand that if a person wants to sell his property, his own property, and go for a bigger property, anyway, he gets a benefit of reinvestment into a property. So that also is protected for his own house when he upgrades his house, which was a tension in earlier times of long-term capital gains tax. So by and large, I think 95% of the people will benefit by the reduction in tax. The 5% of people who hold historical plots and projects who are just sold will have to pay more tax. But I think it is really a marginal amount. And overall, the real estate industry benefits from the reduction in tax, which is taking place because it puts pari passu real estate and capital markets investment on the same platform. We have been asking for this for 10 years.
Looking at real estate as an investment class. Now, with this kind of move, what does it suggest, the push from the government? Because when we talk about property, you talk about usage, you talk about end users, but you also look at it as an investment. How does that come through now from the government's attitude, what's coming through in the budget, and bringing that sense of parity? When you talk about capital gains as well, bringing parity in asset classes, does that happen with real estate as well?
This is exactly what we were talking about many years ago. When people who look at investment opportunities certainly were looking at the capital gains tax issues, and that was a consideration which did happen. Of course, as Ghulam has correctly pointed out, it makes zero difference to a person who buys it for his own home. So I think there is no issue whatsoever as far as this is concerned. And I think personally, bringing this to parity for the long run for real estate is definitely a positive sign. I am actually welcoming this particular change. I wish if that other aspect of this could not have come. I think we all are happy about it. And I think 95% of the people who invest will be very happy. I don't think this is going to make any difference whatsoever in terms of investment into the real estate sector. In any position whatsoever, it makes no difference.
Developer, how do you feel about the need for land reforms? The acquisition of land, that remains an issue. It has been a key ask. But in terms of moves, and I was talking to Swaminathan Iyer, the economist, he was with me on ET Now just moments ago, and he's saying, yes, that kind of push has been an ask, but the government hasn't been able to deliver. How keenly is the industry looking for labor reforms, for land reforms?
Land reforms, step one has already happened. Digitization, doing the survey in terms of GIS mapping is a very, very big step. I think this is something, which is another big major step which the government is doing. Titles in India were questionable. Even if you had a revenue record in your hand, you wouldn't understand and believe that the owner who is selling it to you is actually the owner. Now with digitization and GIS mapping of the entire country, both in the urban areas and also in the rural areas, which is contemplated and which has already started, I think will make a perceptible difference to security For lending purposes, also it will be easy. And also it will help in the entire gamut of purchase and investment into land, whether it is for industry, whether it is for land acquisition, whether it is to buy property for affordable or any other target. I think it's an important reform. On the labor reform side, I think the problems are less there. What is more important in the labor side is skilling. Today, let me tell you, Vikram, I'm petrified of doing a project, not because of capital or for land or for sales. It's because I'm not getting enough skilled labor. And today I want 100 skilled labor. I don't get 20. And the growth in the industry is going to make it even more challenging.
Yes.
So I think skilling of the industry is a bigger problem than anything else which is now going to happen in the next couple of years. This is surprising, but let me tell you, we are all putting tower cranes and other things in order to see that we require less labor. And on the other side, we have labor who are unskilled and cannot be taken on to our projects. But there's a gap between this and the other thing. With infrastructure growing, with our thing, we can absorb all the growth in housing and infrastructure. If these people were skilled, I promise you, most of the people who are unemployed today would get employed. But
Yes. No.
we don't get labor at all.
Yes, getting skilled labor, that has been a problem for several sectors, several industries.